Hello friends, welcome back to Mjx Hyper. As you can tell, today we have this truck for unboxing, the Hyper Go 10208 4-wheel drive version 2 monster truck from Mjx. You can get this in black and white color. Here on the box we can see some specifications. So this one has the quick release body mechanism, comes with sledgehammer tires, has metal ball bearings and metal oil fill shocks. Comes with a 4S 100 amp ESC and the brushless motor. It also has a center differential. So let's unbox it and see how the model is. So first of all, we have this user guide. So here we have all the information about the truck. So the exploded view and the part numbers are in this user manual. If you want, you can refer this. Next up, we have this box of accessories. First, we have this bag with an extra set of lower arms and hub carriers. Next, we have this wheelie bar that you can mount on the truck. And lastly, we have this bag with some tools and foam pads. The radio with this truck is quite basic, which we get with most Mjx models. It's a basic 3-channel radio system. On the on-off switch we have 70 and 100% option, and we have 2 dials for the throttle and steering trim. And here we have the switch for channel 3 to control the lights. With 2 AA batteries we can power up this radio. Now one problem that I notice is the steering wheel on this radio does not rotate freely. So the steering wheel is binding for some reason. So maybe the screw is over tightened. Seems like it. Alright, so here we have the truck, and out of the box it sounds like this. And here we can see up close how the body is. Now suspension feels a bit stiff. This truck has a complete metal driveline. On the back, here we have the quick release latch for the body. Now, even though this is the version 2 of the truck, a lot of users are having problem with the body popping out, especially when you land the truck or bash it hard. So Mjx still has to fix this issue with the body latch. Then here on the rear side we can see a skid plate, which will prevent the body from getting scratched and abused. And similarly on the roof also we have 2 skid plates. Overall the graphics and the design of the body is quite attractive, and the body is also quite thick. It's made of good material and has a good weight to it. In terms of build quality, the body is top notch. No complaints about it. Now first thing that I noticed is this XT60 connector on a 100 amp ESC. Here we have the brushless motor with a full size heatsink and 2 cooling fans on it. And just beside that we have the ESC with the cooling fan as well. Now since the ESC and motor are 4S compatible, I'm sure there will be some heat and these fans will definitely keep it cool. Here we have the 35 kg full metal digital servo. Now the steering action feels a bit stiff, just like the suspension, and there is some play on the hubs. On the front we have a big size bumper. It is flexible, so it should absorb impact quite well, and we have a big LED light on it. On the lower arms we do have shock guards to prevent the shock from getting hit directly. The steering links and the upper tie rods are also in metal and they are quite chunky. But overall the steering action feels a bit stiff. It's not the smoothest steering assembly that I've seen on a truck. Here we can see the center drive shaft, which connects the front and center differential. And it's a decent sized drive shaft, so should be quite durable and handle a good amount of abuse. Now speaking of the suspension, you can see that the shocks don't lift easily. Additionally, we do get sway bars on this truck on the front and rear. So the stability of the truck should be good. However, if you want to bash the truck on an off-road environment, you might as well remove the sway bars. On all four wheels we have CVT drive shaft in metal, and just as the center drive shaft, it is also quite thick, so durability is not a problem. Here we can see the shock tower. It's completely in plastic and there is no metal support or metal bracing as such. The shock caps are also in plastic along with the plastic collar. Now the ear on the shock cap is a bit too thin, so not sure how well it will perform on high jumps, so there is a possibility that this could break. On the version 2 they have increased the ground clearance slightly, and if you want you can tune the suspension on the lower arm, so if you want you can adjust a bit of height on the truck. The steering posts are also in plastic. As of now there is no metal steering assembly for this. Here we can see the center chassis brace on the truck. All the wires are actually routed on this chassis brace. So because this truck is built with plastic components mostly, it has a lot of flex on it, and to eliminate that flex, this center chassis brace is quite important. Here we can see the battery bay. We have two Velcro straps to mount the battery. And a foam pad on the bottom. On the side of the truck we have some guards. These will prevent the truck from any side impact and should protect the chassis as well. And the battery bay is quite big. It can easily fit in a 5000 mAh 4S lipo battery. So all the electronics are placed on one side and the battery mount is on one side. So once the battery is in place, it should balance the weight on the chassis and should make the truck more or less stable. The on-off switch for the ESC is placed over here. Now the tires on this truck are labeled as sledgehammer tires and the wheels are vented. The sidewall on the tire is quite high, so for an off-road monster truck it should help. Overall the tread pattern is good and should grip very well on most surface. Let's have a look underneath the truck. So here we can see on the rear we have a metal brace or metal skid plate, you can say. The lower arms are also quite thick, chunky and full of plastic, so they should be quite durable, and we anyways get an extra spare in the box. The chassis is more or less flat and covered from the bottom. On the front also we have this metal bracing. Even without a battery, the truck definitely feels heavy. Let's install a 4S lipo battery. So I have this 5000 mAh GNB battery with me. Now this one has an XT90 connector on it, and the ESC comes with a XT60. So I do have this adapter which I'll be using for now. And just like that, the battery fits quite well. Once again, I do feel like the steering wheel is binding somewhere. So as if the steering wheel is pressed on the radio. Honestly, it's a letdown, so Mjx should have improved the radio on this. Let's power up the truck. The steering servo feels alright, like it's not sluggish but it isn't quite fast as well, so it's somewhere in between. On the front and rear we do have lights which you can control from the channel 3 switch. Here we can hear the fans on the ESC and motor. So on a 4S battery these will definitely heat, and we definitely need these fans to keep the system cool. Now one thing that you can notice as well is the amount of tow out this truck has. Like out of the box it might seem unusual, and here we can see that the wheels are actually pointing outwards. Especially the right wheel seems to be a bit more on the outside. With the battery installed on the truck, I can definitely tell that the truck is heavy. So even though it's in plastic with metal drive shafts and metal driveline all the way, it is definitely not a lightweight truck. Let's remove the wheel and see how the hex hub is. So we have this M4 nut and a plastic spacer. The tire seems to be glued quite well on the wheel, and because the wheels are vented with the hole, the tires shouldn't balloon a lot. So we do have metal hex hubs on this truck, and I believe they are 12 millimeters in size, and they're secured with a grub screw on the drive shaft. Here we can see the CVD up close. Now there is definitely a lot of play on the CVD. So because it's still new and it has so much play, not sure how worse this play could get once we run the truck. Even on the rear we can see we do have a lot of play on the CVD. Now because this ESC is programmable, you can pair it up with your phone and adjust the settings. So download the app which I've linked in the description as well. Enable Bluetooth and location on your mobile device and search for the ESC. It will be labeled as E100SL. So it's a sensorless ESC, and click on go. Then we can see the overall voltage and the temperature. Click on set to adjust the settings. So here we can see the very first option we have for transmitter correction. So basically you can calibrate the radio transmitter from here. Next we have the running mode. Forward reverse with brake is the default. Cutoff voltage, I'll set this to 3.2 volts. Punch level by default is at 7. I'll keep this to 8 for more power. Maximum brake force is at 75. We may have to increase it. Then max reverse force is at 50. Initial brake, not sure if you would need this. Neutral range, if you want, you can adjust this. BEC voltage is at 7.4 volts, so not a problem. And motor direction, if you want to reverse this for some reason, you could do that from here. And lastly, we have the lipo cell count. Set this to auto. So once you make all the changes, make sure to click on save so that the settings are written on the ESC. And go back. Now let's talk about some of the negative points that I've noticed on this truck. The very first being that the clipless body mechanism is not perfect and the body does pop out quite a few times, so it could irritate you and have you walking all the way to mount the body. Next, here we can see that where the center drive shaft connects to the front differential pinion gear on the drive cup, there is some amount of flex and play. So not sure if it's good or bad, but it doesn't look good out of the box. The nuts on the steering assembly and the shock tower are quite basic. Being a proper hobby grade RC, Mjx should have used nylon nuts on this truck, and even though they have used basic nuts to secure the screws, they have used excessive amount of thread lock, so if you try to remove the screw, it's not going to come off quite easily. Number 3, here we can see that the wheels do spin quite freely, and that's because the differentials have grease in them. Now usually on a hobby grade RC we tend to use differential fluid, so we will definitely have to fill in the differentials with silicone depth fluid. Number 4 is the suspension action. As you can see and hear, the shocks don't absorb the impact, and all the impact actually travels to the chassis, which you can literally hear. So because the suspensions are stiff, you might consider replacing the shocks altogether or change the fluid in them. So I will be changing the shock fluid as well. Here is a quick size comparison. So we have the EMB monster truck, the Mjx Hyper Go 14 scale, and the Omni Terminator. Clearly the 10208 is big and has its presence. These two here are rivals of one another. One is a proper 110 scale, whereas the Omni Terminator is a mini 110th or a 112th, you can call it. I'll be comparing these two in a different video. If you're interested, do subscribe and stay tuned for that. And here I've placed it beside the X Max just for size reference. So there we have it, the Mjx Hyper Go 10208, proper 110 scale RC truck. Now the reason I got this is because I don't have a 110 scale RC truck in my RC collection apart from the Atlas, which is a rock crawler, and I actually wanted to buy a 110 RC monster truck. I did have plans to buy the Traxxas Max or the Arma Granite, but since this product was launched and it kind of fills in the gap very well, I decided to buy this. And I am quite happy and satisfied with it because the overall appeal of this truck is quite impressive, and I can't wait to test this. So I hope you found this video informative, helpful and entertaining as well. If you're new to my channel, please do subscribe and like this video as well. And that is all I have to share in this video. Until then, thanks a lot for watching, and I'll see you guys very soon.